Alright, welcome back. Let's look at a few more monsters from Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft. So up here we have something called the Death's Head, which is connected to this Death's Head tree. So up here at the top we see a Death's Head. It's a disembodied flying head. The type of creature one of these grotesque undead originated from determines how it terrorizes its prey. So depending on the head where this thing started from, I guess it's going to have different attack and such. A death's head that arises from a person or animal swoops down to rip apart victims with its gnashing teeth. One with the head of a monster like a Nothic or Medusa, though, retains a measure of the power it had in life. So imagine Medusa heads coming at you, and can befuddle the minds or petrify the bodies of its victims. Now these come from what looks like here this death's head tree. In cursed wilds grow death's head trees, which are awakened trees from which 2d6 death's heads dangle like foul fruits. You can just imagine what this tree looks like with these heads like this right down here hanging from the thing. The heads detach to protect the tree if it's threatened. Should the tree be destroyed, the heads scatter and plant themselves in unholy ground. A new death's head tree emerges from each planted head 1d12 months later. So there's the death's head. They're tiny, not that big, surprising armor class of 16, not many hit points, got a fly speed, nothing too impressive here, a little bit of dexterity and wisdom for some reason, so low challenge rating. And looking at the beheaded form, when created, a death's head takes one of three forms: an aberrant head, a gnashing head, or petrifying. The form determines the creature's attack. So, of course, they got the unusual nature of undead, nothing surprising there. So there's the gnashing bite. Again, that's just from one of the head types right there. Look like a d6 of piercing, but look at that 2d6 more of necrotic. Mind-bending bite from the aberrant head, piercing and necrotic damage there. And then petrifying from what looks like a Medusa head, as you see right here. Got a DC 10 con saving throw, or start to be turned to stone. So luckily that's a pretty low saving throw right there. Now in this picture, notice you see these heads flying around, but look at this guy right here. You may wonder, well, what's he all about? Well, that must be this Dullahan, as it says right here, or Headless Undead Warriors. So straight off the old Headless Horseman mythology and such right there. These are the remains of villains who let vengeance consume them. These decapitated hunters haunt the areas where they were slain, butchering innocents in search of their severed heads or to quench their thirst for revenge. So maybe they just want to kill, maybe they're looking for the rest of their body, which would be their head in this case here. Wicked knights are commanders in life. Dullahans adhere to twisted codes of chivalry or soldiership, so they've got remnants of their old life. These fallen champions consider a specific location their battlefield, so I bet they're going to stay close to wherever it is they were killed. This gives rise to stories of haunted battlegrounds, ruins, roads, river crossings, strategic locations, and so on, where a Dullahan continues a terrifying campaign against the living, wherever that may be. In death, they are often rejoined by those who followed them in life, either in the form of lesser undead, like skeletons or wights, or terrifying mounts like warhorse skeletons or nightmares. And it looks like we had a nightmare in the previous picture. So where you have one of these headless horsemen, you could have him riding a nightmare and maybe even commanding an army of skeletons and such at the same time. A lot of potential there. So what do they have? Headless Hunts. These are known for seeking their lost heads, giving rise to regional legends of headless hunters and endless searches. The Dullahan legend table suggests hauntings that might be the stuff of legends. So you got one pursuing anyone who has pieces of his old skull, pursues relatives seeking to claim a head with a family resemblance. That's a funny one. They got a twin brother or sister, they're in trouble. A greedy Dullahan seeks to recover its bejeweled helmet, which holds its head, and two of them seek the same head, both believing they're the actual owner. That's an interesting one right there. So look at that, 135 hit points are pretty tough right there. If you look at the stats, they're definitely high. So there's all the immunities, resistances, 120 feet of true sight. Not dark vision, but true sight there. So they mentioned this headless summoning once per short or long rest. If a Dullahan is reduced to 0 hit points, it doesn't die or fall unconscious. Instead, it regains 97 hit points. That's an odd number right there. In addition, it summons 3 death's heads. So these things must all be connected, one of each type, in a space within 5 feet of it. The death's head are under the Dullahan's control and act immediately in the initiative order. Additionally, they can now use the options Mythic Actions. Award a party an additional 5,900 for defeating the Dullahan after it uses Headless Summoning, right? So that's going to really up the XP. So look, this thing's got legendary resistance, the unusual nature of undead, multi-attack, like battle axes look like down here. If it scores a critical, somebody must roll a DC 15 con saving throw or have their head cut off. So it's basically got a Vorpal weapon, if you're familiar with those. Got a fiery skull attack, legendary actions, mythic actions. These things are tough. So it's got an attack, frightful presence, can frighten individuals, headhunt, can deal extra damage on hits like necrotic there. Let's see, coordinated assault makes a battle axe attack, and then one death's head. The Dullahan can see within 30 feet, can use its reaction to make a melee. Headless wail, an echoing shriek issuing from the headless stump. Each creature within 10 feet, DC 15 wisdom saving throw or 3d10 psychic damage. So these things are really tough right here. Hit points, abilities all the way around. Sort of like a Death Knight without all the spell casting there. So next here we have a Gallow Speaker. Looks sort of like a ghost right there, but of course you can see that skeleton at the same time. Gallow Speakers arise from places of mass death, or sites where creatures regularly meet their doom. Over time, pain-racked phantoms and lingering souls combine into an entity that knows death in a myriad of forms. So it looks like groups of individuals, maybe where there is something like a gallows or a place where individuals are being executed. Their spirits gather up and make these speakers. Such amalgamated spirits are tormented by their collective pain, endlessly moaning, disjointed final thoughts as they lash out at the living. Having known untold deaths, Gallow Speakers can predict suffering. So look at the prediction right there. Foresee dooms leveled against them and overwhelming their foes with visions of violent deaths. Gallow Speakers rarely speak coherently or communicate with the living, instead being entirely obsessed with their memories of death. These undead endlessly mutter to themselves. So I guess that's always going to be heard with them, giving voice to final curses, regrets, pleas, and apologies. Those who linger and listen might gain an insight to their many deaths. So maybe their last words, begging or something, is what they're saying over and over. So AC of 12, really low, 85 hit points, got a fly speed right there. Look at the charisma of an 18, and then a pretty good dex right there. And of course, lots of resistances and immunities as you'd expect with some type of undead. Look at this divination sense. The Gallow Speaker can see 60 feet into the ethereal plane when it's on the material plane and vice versa. It has incorporeal movement, and of course doesn't require the usual things you would see with undead. Foretelling touch. It's going to do, look at +7 to hit, 2d10 plus 4 psychic damage, and the target must roll a d4 and subtract the number rolled from the next attack roll or saving throw. So that's what that foretelling touch is really doing, harming their future rolls, whatever that may be with. Suffering echoes. The Gallow Speaker targets a creature can see within 30 feet. The target must make a DC 15 wisdom saving throw. On a failed save, they're going to take 3d12 psychic damage, and waves of painful memories leap from the target up to three other creatures with its choice within 30 feet, which also take 3d8. So that's going to jump maybe to most of the party, if not all of them, depending on the party size. Then we got these little guys right here, looks like called Gremishka. Cremiscus are the vicious products of mistakes made by novice spellcasters seeking to create life. The results are cat-sized, magically unstable creatures with a taste for the trappings of magic. So it looks like they're after magic, not blood and flesh. Particularly spell books, spell components, familiars, and the like. They delight in tormenting magic users, holding vicious grudges against those who gave them life as they infest the walls of spellcasters' homes or the surrounding lands. So how about have a bunch of these things right here running through the walls? Imagine the party trying to figure out what that is. Despite their feral appearances, they're cunning creatures. They might imitate the sounds of whimpering children or wounded animals to coax victims into tight quarters. While they favor attacking spellcasters, again, they like that magic, they have an affinity for it, they are opportunistic hunters and lash out at anything they think they can overwhelm just to get a bite out of it. Gremishkas have an unstable relationship with magic. Spells cast near one of these might rebound onto those nearby or cause the monster to explode. So how about that? These nasty looking cat things can bounce a spell back or just explode on impact. Its scaly chunks rapidly reforming into duplicate Grameshkas. These spontaneously created swarms can rapidly turn a single annoying Gremishka into a chittering, magic-reflecting wave of teeth and claws. Interesting right there. So there's one of them individually, right? Low armor class and hit points. A little bit of dex, not much anything right there. Some dark vision. They're going to bite you. And look at this magic allergy. Once a day. Immediately after a creature within 30 feet casts a spell, the Gremishka can spontaneously react to the magic. Roll a d6 to see what happens. So on a 1 or 2, it emanates magical energy. Each creature within 30 feet has to roll a DC 10 con saving throw or take force damage. On a 3 or 4, surges with magical energy and look at regains hit points. Or on a 5 or 6, explodes and dies, and one swarm of Gremishkas instantly appear in the space which they talk about right here. So here's the swarm. Whole bunch of little tiny creatures collectively here. So a lot of this is the same at the top. Notice limited spell immunity with the swarm. The swarm automatically succeeds on saving throws against spells of 3rd level or lower. So that really takes out a lot of spells. Considering the challenge rating of these guys, that may make spellcasters pretty much useless at this point. And the attack rolls of such spells always miss. With the swarm, they can occupy another creature's space and vice versa, and the swarm can move through any opening large enough for one of these tiny animals. The swarm can't regain hit points or temporary hit points. So there's their bite attack. Look at the swarm, 3d6 plus 2, or 1d6 piercing damage, like some force damage down here. And there's that spell redirection. So very interesting. When something goes to casting spells back, or maybe explodes into a larger number of them, that's pretty entertaining. So that's a pretty good one right there. Now we got something here that looks like called a Zhang Shi. It sounds like something from maybe another language right there. When a soul becomes trapped within its corpse, its bitterness can reanimate its body, creating a Zhang Shi. These vengeful dead stalk their descendants and the communities they knew in life, sowing terror and taking retribution for the slights or neglected burial rites that led to their cursed resurrection. So it sounds like they weren't given a proper funeral and burial, and they're going to come back angrily about this. Rigor Mortis notoriously affects the limbs of them, causing them to hold their arms rigidly to walk with a stiff gait. So that's what you see in that picture right up there. It looks about like a white or something such as that. This, along with their flight, led many to call them hopping vampires. That's pretty funny. By day, they lurk within their tombs and hidden ruins to avoid detection. At night, they emerge to drain life from other creatures whose vital energies sustain their unnatural existence and grant them greater powers. Humanoids killed by these rise as life-hungry corpses and might turn to a Jiangshi themselves if they feed upon the living. So up here at the top, there we see they're a medium undead. There's their armor class. They got 119 hit points, so pretty tough right there. Look at the strength, con, intelligence. Got some really high stats there. There are their weaknesses. Fear of its own reflection. If they see its own reflection, it immediately uses its reaction to move as far away, so a mirror could actually be used against these. They're susceptible to holy symbols. While the Jiangshi is wearing or touching a holy symbol, it automatically fails saving throws against effects that turn undead. So that's interesting there. They have a multi-attack, 3 slam attacks, and there's their slam damage, 2d8 plus 4, and then consume energy. They draw energy from a creature they can see within 30 feet. The target needs to make a DC 16 con saving throw or take 48 necrotic damage on a failed save, or half as much on successful. The Jiangshi regains hit points equal to the amount of necrotic damage dealt. After regaining hit points from this action, they gain the following benefits for 7 days. Its walking speed increases to 40, so that's going to make them difficult to outrun. Gains a flying speed equal to its walking and can hover. A humanoid slain by the necrotic damage rises as a white at the end of the Jiangshi's turn. The white acts immediately after the Jiangshi in the initiative order. If this white slays a humanoid with its life drained, the white transforms into a Jiangshi 5 days later. So that's how they get changed into these creatures here. And then change shape. They can polymorph into a beast, a humanoid, or an undead that's medium or small, or back into its true form. Its stats, other than its size, are the same in each form. Any equipment it's wearing or carrying is absorbed, and so on down the line. So that's an interesting new type of undead right there. Hopefully you can use some of these in your campaigns. If you do, let me know down below how it goes. Until next time, good luck and good gaming.